Has the NFL MVP voting happened yet?
Yes, it's a regular season award.
Okay. Because if it hadn't, this Super Bowl would be for the MVP award, in my view.
Whoever wins it wins the MVP.
Yeah, absolutely. If they're going to give it to Mahomes, I'm sure. But if Jalen Hurts outplays Mahomes and wins the Super Bowl, to me, he's the MVP for his dual threat. Unbelievable! What a season he's had.
It would be Mahomes' third MVP.
Second, I think. I'm not sure.
Second, but Greg, I'd give a little pushback on that. Like, obviously, it feels like there's a bit of LeBron fatigue when it comes to Patrick Mahomes. Like, we know he's the best player in the NFL. He's the best quarterback that we've seen in, X amount of years. But, like, Jalen Hurts has been playing so well. He's developed his game passing so well. I think he's got, 15-some-odd games with a rushing touchdown. Like, he's an incredible dual threat athlete.
Yep.
Like, why is it not his turn to get an MVP? We saw Lamar do it.
Did he even play that well on Sunday?
But it's not a Sunday award.
He did not.
It's not a Sunday award, though.
I mean,
you said it yourself. It's a regular season award. It doesn't matter what happened Sunday. It's about what happened when he was 11-1 as a starter.
No, Tony, what you're saying is fair. What you're saying is fair. But what Chris is also saying, if he plays like that against the Chiefs, they're going to lose. He can't play
I hear
like
you.
that.
I'm talking about just regular season MVP, which is what we talked about.
Jalen Hurts.
I don't think that there was anybody more valuable to his team than him.
100%. For me, it's a two-man race between those two.
I mean, Mahomes is.
But it's the fatigue of
Patrick Mahomes is incredible.
Are you guys tired of Patrick Mahomes? He's in his mid-20s.
Right.
Guys, time out. First off, I was on the verge of saying 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowls in his first 5 seasons. If he pulls that off, it's going to be hard to dispute. It's the greatest start to a quarterbacking career.
They let Tyreek Hill go, and that increases his value to the team. He has manufactured, Patrick Mahomes has the value in the Chiefs' offense.
But I understand that. But when we all knew Mahomes was going to be good this year, and the Chiefs were going to be good. When people say about your team, they're really talented, if the quarterback is good, they'll be a great team. If you're not certain he's good, and he was great, and they were a great team.
Right, so you're making
to me, that's MVP.
person.
That doesn't mean he's most valuable.
You laid out an argument for why he wouldn't be the most valuable player because they're saying how loaded that team is.
Right.
And he just has to be good to get him there. So he did his job. If Patrick Mahomes isn't on the Kansas City Chiefs, we've seen what that team looks like over.
Chad Henne had a 98-yard drive for a touchdown. I don't know why.
This is semantics. All these guys we're talking about, Joe Burrow, they're all in this conversation. Tony's not wrong for saying that Jalen Hurts could have won MVP this year.
No, he's not wrong.
He's one of the people to consider, but it's just
a two-man race.
I think people.
But Mike is saying Mahomes is great.
People get too caught up in trying to find somebody different, and you were doing it with Burrow. Everybody just doesn't want to acknowledge the reality is that Patrick Mahomes is the top of the line when it comes to that position in the NFL right now.
Right.
He is. That team is not in the Super Bowl.
He's the current day
him.
Peyton Manning, right? We can give him the MVP every single year. It's just not going to happen
yet. You haven't. He's got one.
We can't be bored. We can't be bored by this already.
We stopped giving them to Jordan after 6.
Right.
I know.
Then
but
we would give out the token one to Barkley. Malone would get one.
It was stupid.
Who would be the first overall pick if we redrafted all the teams right
Mahomes.
now? Mahomes.
Mahomes.
That's pretty valuable.
And it's not like he had by far the best statistical season of any quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
He was 6 touchdowns ahead of anybody else in touchdowns. He was 500 yards ahead of anybody else in passing yards.
I'm not taking anything away from Jalen Hurts. Fantastic player, deserves to be on the medal stand. But come on, what Patrick Mahomes did with Tyreek Hill. We were talking about Tyreek Hill as MVP.
Right.
Tyreek Hill had a spectacular season for the Miami Dolphins. He's gone. Dude, I know it's a regular season, but dude on a high ankle sprain just willed his team to the Super Bowl. He's head and shoulders the best. And we just don't want to give him an MVP because, we all know you're the best. It's more fun to give it to Jalen Hurts. Let's give it to a new guy. It's just dumb. Give it to the best player.
Yeah, Mahomes.
Give it to the most valuable one.
Mahomes will win and should win, I think. It's not going to be an outrage if Mahomes wins the MVP. I mean,
But I think Mike is saying it should be an outrage if Hurts wins it.
No, I'm not outraged. It's just it's an acknowledgement of the hipster votes. We just want something new and exciting, and it's okay for Jalen Hurts, just like it's okay for Joe Burrow to not be as valuable to their team as Patrick Mahomes is, and still be valuable. We're having him. The honor is to be in the discussion. But if you're voting for Jalen Hurts over Patrick Mahomes, you're kind of just hating on Patrick Mahomes and the notion of giving it on to a legacy candidate.
You're just bored.
Yeah. I mean, and you want to do something hipstery and fun. It's
but people get bored, guys.
But how? He's only got one.
I know.
He only has one.
I'm just telling you, people get bored. People want to see something new and something different. It is dumb. And another point, too, that I actually found really interesting this year is the fact that you take out Tyreek Hill, probably the best offensive weapon we have in football right now, and he got better as a quarterback, right? He wasn't relying on throwing 65-yard bombs to Tyreek Hill every play. They were playing two high safeties. He had to spread the wealth around. MVS, who was kind of a whatever, has come online. Like Juju, who we thought was toast, is somewhat decent. Like Kelsey's still incredible, but they did it through so many different weapons. It wasn't just Tyreek, let's go throw a 65-yard bomb.
Right, but that speaks to Mahomes' greatness, though.
Right.
If he can adapt to losing his number one weapon.
And be better.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is the reason Hurts is an MVP candidate is the same reason why a few years ago Lamar Jackson won the MVP, is because it's a dual threat. And if you're a dual threat to that degree, as good as Hurts is running the ball as a threat, that's huge. And that's where, even though Mahomes had a great statistical season passing, when you combine Hurts's passing and running, pretty even impact.
It's not. Jalen Hurts had 22 passing touchdowns and 13 rushing touchdowns. Mahomes had 41 passing and 4 rushing, so he has 10 more touchdowns.
Okay.
Greg, if you put Jalen Hurts...
Understanding that Hurts got injured in a couple games.
Right.
Like, he didn't play the full season.
We agree Mahomes on the Eagles. They still made the Super Bowl. You put Jalen Hurts on the Kansas City Chiefs. Are they making the Super Bowl? Like Patrick Mahomes is one of those guys you put on any team, they instantly become a Super Bowl contender. I don't think you could say that about
Imagine
Jalen
what
Hurts.
Andy Reid could do with Jalen Hurts, though, right? Like, he's the wizard of offense. Imagine what he had in somebody like that.
But I mean, how
much
much
he's doing with Patrick Mahomes?
No, I get that, but to Stu's point of if you put Jalen Hurts on the Chiefs, will they still make the Super Bowl?
But also,
I think so.
You can't really create more ideal conditions for a quarterback than the Eagles' offensive line, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Miles Sanders in the backfield, and Kenneth Gainwell as your backup. That is a loaded offense.
And you also have the best defense in football, meaning Jalen Hurts doesn't go into a game thinking, geez, I may need to score 34 points today. He just doesn't because his defense is so good.
And all that being said, still an outstanding player. Incredibly decisive, really athletic, great running the ball, made vast improvements throwing the ball, still has room to grow as a thrower of the football, just not as good as Patrick Mahomes.
Agreed.
I agree.
I don't think anybody's disputing that, though.
But there are going to be voters that dispute that.
People are by mounting an MVP case for anyone other than Mahomes.
Well,
and by the way,
we have to, right? It can't just be Mahomes and nobody else.
I don't think so this year.
There's people that need to have their flowers for having an incredible season.
Yeah, we're giving them flowers by talking about them. Like, who's your MVP?
Second place flowers.
But it's very
right.
Yeah.
He's in the conversation, Tony.
I'm just saying there needs to be a conversation. That's all.
That's the honor.
Well,
but
he's
head and shoulders.
Right.
Michael Jordan only won the MVP 5 times.
Okay, he should have won it every year, though.
Right.
To my point.
Yeah, I mean,
but they started giving them away to Barkley
for Barkley and Karl Malone.
People started getting bored. How are we there already with Patrick?
How many does LeBron have?
That's a fair point by Mike. He's only won 1. We started doing that with Michael after 5. I mean,
look what happened to LeBron. It was Derrick
Rose.
4. Yeah, but Derrick Rose had a good season, but LeBron was obviously the best player in the sport.
That was the decision.
And they gave it to somebody else because they were bored because they didn't like the narrative or whatever it was. Like, it happens.
You know, I understand that it happens. And
but Mike's saying, can we give Mahomes a couple? Right.
Like, let's give him some here.
What was Mahomes' stats the year that Lamar won MVP? Because I feel like if he was as excellent as he was this year.
It isn't a baseball World Series champion, I don't know. That's my wheelhouse.
It was super impressive. I'm still shocked by it.
How'd
you do that?
Mahomes had a relative down year to what he's been over the course of his career in 2019, which is when Lamar won MVP. If you look at his touchdown figures, he's normally been high 30s. At one point, he had 50 in his first season as a starter, but he had 26 touchdowns and 5 interceptions the year that Lamar won MVP. So he had a down year relative to who he's been in that 2019 season.
Greg, if he wins 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowls first 5 years, that's probably the greatest start.
Yeah, and
I mean, Tom Brady won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years.
5.
Well, nobody's going to be Brady, but apart from Brady,
but just 1 MVP is for his career, I think. Brady.
Really?
Yeah, I think
one MVP?
So. I think so.
Yeah, but he's always been a quarterback that doesn't have the the most impressive passing totals.
Right.
He's won 3 MVPs.
Oh.
07, 10, and 17.
Is that a fine?
That's
still
I mean, you're
that's
not
still
reading it
incredibly
in a row.
low.
Yeah,
But-
that's
but
shocking.
To the Mahomes point, it's still 3. Like Mahomes is that dude now, best guy at the position, and on top of that, the stats back it up.
Right.
Whereas you could always say that about Brady. You could always been a Brady guy over Peyton Manning, but Peyton Manning would have the stats over him. Aaron Rodgers would have the stats over him. Brady competed in the elite generation of quarterbacks.
And if Kansas City wins the Super Bowl, what feathers Mahomes' legacy for me is that he would have won that second Super Bowl playing with an injury that during the regular season might have kept him out for 4 or 5 games. Easy.
I feel like everybody was on Manning over Brady until he just compiled so many Super Bowls that it's like, all right, we have to say him now.
Right. I mean,
Like
Brady
everybody
had a Hall of Fame career after Manning broke down.
Right. They
were competitive for 10 years. And
2 of them.
Honestly, yeah.
The eye test was always Peyton. Like you're
Yeah.
just going off of looking at their
and it was I was going to make this point, like aesthetically, I loved watching Peyton Manning play football. And maybe it's because he was in my division. Maybe people outside of the AFC East can confirm. But I don't think like Tom Brady elicited like, oh man, I can't wait to watch Tom Brady on.
That's because you're a hater.
No, yeah.
No, but
I
when he
confirm.
loves a guy like pointing, figuring things out at the line of scrimmage,
did
like
that
he
too.
seems smarter than anyone else.
It's the same thing I say about Joe Burrow now. It's why I get the Brady comps, because Brady in his generation, which was the most stacked for quarterbacking, he never had the most elite physical trait out of any of the quarterbacks he was playing against. He would have taken Breeze's accuracy. You would have taken Aaron Rodgers' arm. You would have taken, heck, even mentally, I think most people would have projected that onto Peyton over Tom Brady. But Tom Brady was just really good at everything. And on top of that, the longevity and the on-field success when he won with Tampa, I think even dating back to when he had that comeback in the Super Bowl against the MVP that year and Matt Ryan, it just became undeniable at that point. People realized how ridiculous they were sounding. Well, Peyton Manning, I know he won a second one with his neck fused together.
He was awful in the Super Bowl.
Looking like a shell.
Terrible.
He's the worst
retired.
quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Worse
I
than
would agree.
Dilfer. Like,
Yes.
seriously.
Yes. I would
that
agree.
Manning was worse than Dilfer.
I would agree.
Yeah.
It just became undeniable. His success was so undeniable that people became self-aware as sports fans that they knew saying any other quarterback as the best ever would make you sound like an idiot.